American author Tom Robbins once said, "Our similarities bring us to a common ground. Our differences allow us to be fascinated by each other." And I have to agree with him, except I feel that our society today emphasizes the differences over our similarities, and it is through finding these similarities that we can begin to establish common ground. Defined as a basis of mutual interest or agreement, I believe that common ground also relates to interconnectedness, and all things and beings are interconnected. In the Leadership 1015 and 1016 courses, we tried to emphasize the importance of these two concepts, common ground and interconnectedness, and how they relate to service work. I would like to discuss how common ground and interconnectedness relate and will interact with my future goals. I will also explain how the big picture to individual concept relates to our leadership courses along with my personal life. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society." I believe that if we try to establish common ground among one another, that is where we can begin that shift. As we have discussed in class and with the freshman students, building relationships and establishing what we call common ground are key to community development. When people can relate to one another in an unbiased, tolerant, understanding, and welcoming environment, it is then that progress can be made. In respect to relationships, it is essential to establish common ground and connection beyond a superficial level. I also believe in empathy. I believe in the kind of empathy that is created through imagination and through intimate, personal relationships. As a writer and English major, so much of my time is spent interpreting stories and connecting to other individuals. It is the urge to know more about ourselves and others that creates empathy. Through imagination and our desire for rapport, we transcend our limitations, freshen our eyes, and are able to look at ourselves and the world through a new and alternative lens. Now, in relation to the concept of big picture to individual, I will try to emphasize the importance of working to establish common ground and connection in situations that call for it. In Margaret Wheatley's Turning to One Another, the practice of bearing witness is introduced. It is described as a simple practice of being brave enough to sit with human suffering, to acknowledge it for what it is, and to not flee from it. When you bear witness, you are turning toward one another and are willing to let their experiences enter your heart, stepping into the picture by being willing to be open to their experience and not turning away. According to this idea of bearing witness, we can turn away or we can turn toward. Those are the only two choices we have. We are all witnesses to human sorrow and suffering, poverty, hunger, devastation, disease, and all of these things plague our existence. And instead of turning away, hiding ourselves from the truth, we can embrace it. We can turn towards, not away, from those suffering. This ideal relates to the work I see myself doing in the future. I can see myself working for a nonprofit organization or company, working and writing to better those around me. I can see myself living in a third world or developing country, and feeling compelled to bear witness to the world around me and obligated to seek change. Last March, I visited Honduras for a mission trip. While I was there, I was a witness to poverty and hunger, living among people who had nothing, who lived day to day fighting to survive. This forced me to reflect on my life. I realized that the essence of your life does not relate to how big your house is or what kind of car you drive. It is simply about connecting. Connecting with nature, connecting with fellow humans, connecting within relationships, and connecting with your true self. These connections are the building blocks of common ground. While I was in Honduras, I found myself connecting with people I never thought I would have met or talked to. We were able to relate to each other as humans, not as Americans or Hondurans or white or dark, but simply as humans. We had talks about faith, religion, and the meanings of life. We shared stories of hardship and struggle, but we took the time to connect, to have a genuine relationship. Throughout the trip, I was overwhelmed by a sense of belonging and identity that the Honduran people held. They lived in the present and thought of every day as a gift. I can take these lessons of connection, common ground, and the mysteries of life and try to apply them to my own life. Since my return, I've been asking myself, what can I do? How can I help? What is my calling for the future? Where do I belong? There are not answers to these questions. Not yet. At this point in my life, at 19 years old, I do not know what I want to be, but I do know who I want to be. I want to be a comforting smile to those in need. I want to be a helping hand to not only my community, but to the world. I am passionate about making a difference in my lifetime for the benefit of others. And I try to mold my life to the powerful words of Gandhi. He says, "You must be the change you wish to see in the world," which is exactly what I intend to do. I want to be remembered for my work, my life as a role model, and most of all, a friendly face. Life can be viewed as a long road trip. There will be speed bumps, rest stops, and accidents along the way. But as I travel, I will be constantly changing, learning, and becoming me.